Hey there. So you're getting ready for the PTCE, huh? Let's talk about the one section that makes a lot of people nervous, the math. But here's the thing. What if I told you it's not as scary as it looks? That with just a few key tools, you can handle pretty much any calculation they throw at you? Well, in this explainer, we're going to do exactly that. We're going to break down pharmacy math and turn it from a weakness into one of your biggest strengths. You ready? Let's dive in.
So here's our game plan for today. We'll start with why math can feel like such a hurdle. Then we'll build a solid foundation with the basics. After that, we'll get into ratios, which are, seriously, your secret weapon, and then we'll lock down the conversions you absolutely have to know. To finish, we'll tie it all together so you can see how it all works in the real world.
Okay, first things first. Why is this so important? Well, in the pharmacy, math isn't just about getting a question right on an exam. It's about keeping people safe. Every single calculation, whether it's for a simple tablet or a complicated IV drip, has a direct impact on a patient's health. So yeah, mastering this stuff, it's a pretty big deal.
Just think about it for a second. When you look at your study materials for the PTCE, which part gives you that little pit in your stomach? For so many people, the answer is always the same.
Yep, it's the math. If that's what you were thinking, you are definitely not alone. It's probably the most common roadblock people face. But our whole goal here today is to take that feeling apart piece by piece and replace it with a clear, step-by-step method that will make you feel confident and in control.
You know, every complex math problem you'll ever see is really just built on a few simple ideas. If you can get super comfortable with fractions, decimals, and percentages, you'll start to see that those big, scary problems are just a bunch of small, easy steps put together. So let's lay down those foundational bricks right now.
All right, let's start with fractions. All a fraction is really is a part of something bigger. The number on top, the numerator, that's the piece you're looking at. Think of it as the amount of medicine. The number on the bottom, the denominator, that's the whole thing, like the total amount of liquid it's mixed in. It's all about that part-to-whole relationship. And the easiest way to think about this is a pizza, right? If you cut a pizza into 4 big slices and you take 2 of them, you've got 2/4 of the pizza. But look, that's the same thing as half the pizza. That's what we call an equivalent fraction. The numbers look different, but the value is exactly the same. Getting good at simplifying is a huge help. Now this is cool. This chart shows you that fractions, decimals, and percentages are really just 3 different ways of saying the exact same thing. So 3/4 is 0.75, which is also 75%. Getting from the fraction to the decimal is easy. Just divide the top number by the bottom. So 3 divided by 4 gives you 0.75. Then to get the percentage, just slide that decimal point 2 places to the right. That's it.
Okay, now that we have our foundation solid, let's get to the single most powerful tool you have for pharmacy math. I'm talking about ratios and proportions. I'm telling you, if you get this one method down, you'll be able to solve almost any calculation problem on the PTCE and, more importantly, on the job.
So, what's a proportion? It's just setting 2 ratios or 2 fractions equal to each other. And here's the magic part. As long as you know 3 of the 4 numbers in that equation, you can always figure out the 4th one. That's how we solve for x. You know the drug concentration in a big IV bag? Well, you can use a proportion to figure out how much drug is in a smaller dose. It's that powerful. All right, let's see it in action. Here's a classic word problem. We know the concentration we're starting with, 5 grams in every 100 milliliters. So the question is, if we only have 25 milliliters of that solution, how many grams of dextrose do we have?
The method is beautifully simple. Cross-multiply and divide. First step, set up your 2 fractions. On one side, you put what you already know, 5 grams over 100 milliliters. On the other side, you put what you're trying to find. Just make sure the units are in the same place, so x grams over 25 milliliters. Now you cross-multiply. 5 times 25 equals 125. And 100 times x is 100x. To get x by itself, just divide 125 by 100. And boom, there's our answer, 1.25 grams. But before you move on, always do a quick reality check. Does it make sense? Well, 25 milliliters is a quarter of 100 milliliters, right? So the dose should be a quarter of 5 grams. And yeah, 1.25 is exactly a quarter of 5. It checks out. See, it's a process you can trust every single time. Okay, next up, we need to talk about being a translator. Not for different languages, but for different systems of measurement. As a pharmacy tech, you're going to be converting units all day long, and it's a skill where you absolutely have to be precise. So while we all use things like pounds and ounces in our daily lives, medicine and science run on the metric system. And there's a really good reason for that. Everything is based on the number 10. That makes it super easy and way less error-prone to convert between units. Going from grams to milligrams is just a matter of moving a decimal point. It's clean.
This table right here, this is your holy grail. These are the conversions you have to know backwards and forwards. And you want to know the best way to make them stick? Practice with real drugs. Get a list of the top 200 drugs for the 2026 PTCE and start doing conversions with their actual dosages. Practice figuring out a patient's weight in kilograms for an antibiotic dose. When you make it real, it sticks.
Let's just pull one of these out and really focus on it, because you will see this one constantly, especially with liquid medicines. 1 teaspoon equals 5 milliliters. This seems so simple, but getting it right is absolutely vital for making sure patients, especially kids, are getting the right amount of medicine at home.
All right, we've gone over the basics, the best method for solving problems, and the key conversions. Now, in our last section, let's put it all together and talk about the single most important part of all of this, accuracy.
So think of this as your math toolkit. First, own the basics. Make them second nature. Second, make ratios and proportions your go-to move anytime you need to solve for an unknown. Third, use flashcards, practice problems, whatever it takes to lock in those key conversions. And last, but most importantly, always double-check your work. Pay special attention to your units and where that decimal point lands. It's your final safety check.
And this really is the bottom line, isn't it? Every time you do a calculation, you are a critical part of a patient's healthcare journey. Getting the right answer isn't just about passing a test. It's about protecting someone's life. Your attention to detail, your precision, it matters more than you can imagine.
Look, the skills themselves are not that complicated, and the methods work every time. That fear you might have about the math section, you can beat it. With practice and a real focus on being precise, you're going to turn this challenge into a strength. So go on, grab a practice test. You are ready to master this math. You've got this.